Army Men as a series is known for mediocrity. Some would say it's known for downright bad games, although I would usually disagree. Usually is the operative word in that sentence, though. Army Men Green Rogue, given the subtitle Omega Soldier in Europe, on the PlayStation 2 is genuinely one of the worst non-indie games I've ever played in my life. It's worse than Portal Runner on Game Boy Color, it's worse than Duke Nukem 3D on Sega Genesis, it's worse than Battletoads and Battlemaniacs on Sega Master System, and it's pretty much on par with Call of Duty on N-Gage and Ride to Hell Retribution on PS3 and Xbox 360. I don't say that in an attempt to do the LOL, look how mad I am at this bad game, AVGN thing. I say that because it truly, genuinely is that bad. The premise of the game is that the Green Army has completed a secret project to create the Omega Soldier, the ultimate super soldier, by extracting plastic from Sergeant Hawk and each of his Bravo Company commandos, and mixing them together to mold a soldier with the strengths of each of them. Cool concept, not gonna lie. Too bad that cool concept is ruined by horrible gameplay and a complete lack of any character development. You awaken in the jungle in the wreckage of a green helicopter that was shot down transporting you. You start walking and decide to murder everything you see because everything is trying to murder you. Tan, gray, blue, everyone. Tan makes sense. They're always the bad guys. And blue isn't too strange. They've always kind of been playing both sides of the war, helping Tan one day and Green the next. Gray is weird, though. Outside of Dr. Mad and his soldiers, the Gray are almost always portrayed as ranging from neutral to hating both Green and Tan, but Tan slightly more. Think of US-USSR relations during World War II. Of course, none of that's explained in the game, and if it is, I couldn't hear it for reasons I'll get to in a moment. Visually, the game is mediocre. It's not the worst looking game on the PS2, but it's definitely in the bottom 50% of games for visuals. This game just has a weird, slightly desaturated look to it that other games in the series don't have. For example, gray soldiers look like black soldiers, and all of the foliage looks like the collard greens that the little old lady used to make for every church potluck, cooked to death in dull olive green. You'll get that if you grew up in the American South. Unfortunately, the sound design isn't really any better. The music is utterly forgettable, and the sound balance is just terrible. At the default values, you'll have a hard time hearing any dialogue whatsoever over the deafening music and sound effects. The worst part, however, is definitely the gameplay. They tried to make this game with an arcade style, but they did it in the same way that Tesla made the Cybertruck. In the worst way possible, a way so bad that they invented new ways to make their product awful. It's a third-person shooter, like most of the console Army Men games, but it's also vertically scrolling. The problem is that the scrolling is extremely slow, making it impossible to just rush through missions or sprint through a dangerous group of enemies. You're at the bottom of the screen, and you control the Omega Soldier's movement with the left stick, while controlling the aim with the right stick. So it's kind of like a twin-stick shooter, if it were designed to suck. It's virtually impossible to aim with any accuracy, which makes the rocket launcher almost unusable. And any game where the rocket launcher is garbage is a bad video game automatically. Speaking of the rocket launcher, there are 4 weapons you can pick up: the rifle, the rocket launcher, the grenade launcher, and the flamethrower. The rifle is best at killing enemies at a distance, the flamethrower is best at killing enemies up close, and the rocket launcher and grenade launcher aren't really good for anything, except bosses. And there are only 5 or 6 bosses, I think, in the game's 16 levels. If you pick up a weapon that you already have, that weapon gets improved 1 stage. You can also pick up gray arrow power-ups to upgrade whatever weapon you have 1 stage, regardless of what it is. If you pick up a different weapon, though, it overwrites what you've got. Got a fully upgraded rifle, which turns it into a massive minigun? Not anymore. Now you have the base-level rocket launcher. Get wrecked, bro. Now honestly, that's not particularly unusual for vertically scrolling shooters, but most of these shooters have a ship or a character that's quick and nimble, whereas here, The tanks in Sarge's heroes are more agile and maneuverable than the Omega Soldier. Despite the fact that the game is pretty small, despite being on PlayStation 2, it's pressed on CD rather than DVD, it takes forever to load. You'll be sitting at the level loading screen for a solid 45 to 60 seconds most of the time. And it takes so long to load your save files at the save screen between levels that you'll think your game is bugged and doesn't detect the memory card. Which is why I had to use the level select cheat until level 7, when I finally realized I was just being impatient and needed to give it longer to load. Why does it take so long to load, though? There isn't that much data to load, given the size of the game, and it's not like the laser is too weak or too slow. Most of the PS1 Army Men games load faster than this, and that's by no means the worst thing about the game. Honestly, that's probably the least offensive problem. But it's definitely jarring to have Sega CD loading times in a game from 2001. Army Men Green Rogue on the PlayStation 2 is truly abysmal. It's insanely difficult, it's hard to aim, the auto balance is way out of whack, and it's just not fun. Like, some games are objectively bad games, but they're still a ton of fun. Devil's Third on Wii U, for example. But this isn't like that. This is a Birdemic, not a Fear Town USA. It's not so bad it's good, it's just plain bad. If you're a huge fan of the series, it might be worth it to emulate this one. But unless you, like me, just want every game in the series on your shelf, this one's not worth buying at any price. No, but I'm a huge fan of the series is gonna make this game feel fun. It may not be the worst video game of all time, but it is hands down the worst game in this series. My rating for Army Men Green Rogue on PlayStation 2 is an F.